Today I want to address what a betrayed spouse probably hears a lot of from the unfaithful, which is, well, if you would have X, I wouldn't have cheated. Or if you'd have done this, I wouldn't ever have cheated in the first place. And granted, the backdrop is probably defensiveness and early on in recovery, but we, the unfaithful, love to have excuses to justify our actions. We have to have excuses when we're unhealthy because we have to push away the guilt. We have to push away the shame. We have to push away the condemnation. The way that we do that is by blaming you. And I did it too. I did it to Samantha in my mind for probably of the 2.5 years that I had the affair, at least 2 years, I blamed her for it. And some of my excuses were, well, if you'd have had sex more, I wouldn't have cheated. If you wouldn't have treated me like a fourth kid, I wouldn't have cheated. If you weren't so controlling, or if you weren't so disapproving, I would have never cheated. Now you have to be careful because you, the betrayed, if you're not careful, you can seductively be seduced into thinking, well, yeah, I was controlling, or yeah, I was this. And you probably were, but that will never justify having an affair. I'm a grown man. I could have done a litany of things instead of cheating, but I didn't. I had an affair. I should have owned it. I should have gotten counseling. I should have maybe drawn a line in the sand and said, if we don't get help, I'm separating or moving out, or we could have done a number of things, but I used all kinds of excuses like most unfaithful do to justify their affair, to blame their spouse for the affair. We want to make ourselves faultless in this thing because we have to do something to make ourselves feel better because we're unhealthy. Are you following me? We, the unfaithful, are so unhealthy we have to justify our affair to ourselves first and then to everybody else to make ourselves feel better. Now, if you're an unfaithful, here's the rub. Samantha was having issues with physical intimacy, and she was controlling, and she was disapproving of things, and I did feel like a fourth kid, and she owned all of that stuff. But all of those things do not make it okay that I cheated. All of those struggles, all of her issues of humanity. She wasn't Jesus. She's not ever going to be Jesus, and she wasn't perfect. She was a mom with 3 kids. I was a workaholic, traveling all over the world, doing just constantly busy, busy, busy. Who wouldn't do all of the things that she did? But I'll tell you, she owned all of it. Now, there's many of you out there that get very upset because you think I'm justifying my affair, and I am not. I'm simply giving you the backdrop to what it's going to take to find restoration. Samantha had to own some things just because that's what we do in marriage. We have to own our dysfunctionalities. I had to own my failures in my affair, and I had to own the fact that I was selfish and self-absorbed and that I cheated, and instead of being the bigger man, I went out and failed miserably. But the hope I want to give you is that our new marriage is better than the marriage that we had even before the affair. And what's vital for your understanding, and I'm talking to you, the unfaithful, you have to understand, until you own your stuff, your spouse isn't going to own any of their shortcomings. Owning their shortcomings doesn't mean it's okay that you cheated. It just means that they're being involved and humble and committed to restoration. But if you continue to blame your spouse for your affair or affairs, all you're doing is revealing how unhealthy you are and that you're not willing to be a grown adult and take responsibility for your actions. So own what you've done today. Embrace it. Say, yeah, I cheated, and I was selfish and self-absorbed, and I blew it, and I should have done all these different things, but I didn't. I cheated, and even though I still believe that you were A, B, and C, it'll never be able to excuse the fact that I cheated. So I want to encourage you both to get beyond the justifying, get beyond the blame shifting, get beyond the pushing away of the guilt, and work towards, what do you do now? I will tell you, do the boot camp. Look at the EMS Weekend or the EMS Online program. If you're strapped for cash, there's a scholarship application you can find on the site. But do something in a forward direction. Because if you move forward, there's hope and there's the possibility that your marriage can be restored.